It's opening day eve, and on today's podcast, I'm going to give you my predictions for the upcoming season. That on today's episode of Locked On Braves. So let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I am your host, Jake Mastriani. You can follow me on social media at ShortstopBall. Also, make sure you check out the podcast at LockedOn_Braves. Send in any questions, comments, or feedback you have for the podcast. You're new and watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. We're approaching 10,000. I don't think we're going to get there by opening day unless we get a really late push here, but we are very, very close. Thank you so much for your support of Locked On Braves. It is our final podcast before opening day, although the Braves got to wait a little bit longer. We'll talk about that. But thank you so much for those joining me live. We got our Guinness here, CU Tigers all the way from Germany, Jeffrey Humphreys, Dave McIntyre, and Impact here with me right now. And I'm sure we'll have some others trickle in as well as the Ecuadorman joining us right now. Thank you so much for being here live. It's been so much fun in the off season where I get to do a lot of these podcasts live and converse with you, see your comments while the show is going on. It's great to do these live. Don't get a chance to do it as much during the season, but I love this part of the off season, being able to do these episodes live, and you make it so enjoyable whenever you're able to join. But today's podcast, we are going to look at the predictions for the upcoming season. I'm going to give you my predictions for the 2024 year, both for the Braves and Major League Baseball as a whole. I'll start with some that I have, and then I'm going to take some from listeners that sent some prediction requests in as well. And then at the end, I'll wrap it up talking about my division winners, postseason predictions, and all of that. It is opening day eve. You wake up tomorrow, there will be Major League Baseball. It just won't be Atlanta Braves baseball. Unfortunately, they have already postpone the game from Thursday. They'll play it on Friday at the same time, 3:05 Eastern. So we'll have to wait a little bit longer for our Atlanta Braves to kick off the season, but still, it'll be fun. Sit back, relax, watch all the other teams get going on opening day. I took the day off anyway, and then I'm actually headed to the beach. I got a Easter weekend trip already planned with the family, so won't be on the postcast this weekend with Grant McCauley, but make sure you check that out over there on Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we'll carry most of the games this year for you. But really excited, obviously, for this opening day coming up tomorrow and this Braves series with the Phillies this weekend. Let's get into some predictions, though. And the first one I have is, how many games do the Braves win? And a couple of you asked that question as well. FanDuel has them at 101.5. They have the over and under at 101.5. And I'll go ahead and tell you, I'm not a gambler. I don't do bets. I don't do any of that. I play some fantasy baseball, which I do just for entertainment. Maybe I may get in trouble for saying this from my bosses. If you gamble, you bet, do so responsibly. I know we have sponsors on this show, that encourage that point. But if anything can be learned from the Ippy situation with Ohtani, there are people out there that really struggle with that. And $4.5 million is a problem. If you have a problem, make sure that you seek the help that you need. With these over-unders, these predictions I'm going to give you, please do not run and go make huge bets on this or anything like that. This is just a fun exercise for me to do, to give you my predictions on the upcoming season. So felt the need to kind of say that up front with the current news that we have with the Ippy situation and Ohtani, because that's a very serious issue that a lot of people have, and I don't think it gets talked about enough. But sorry, getting back into the predictions, how many games did the Braves win this year? I'm going to say 98. It's really hard to predict a team to win 100 games 3 years in a row. Can the Braves do it? Absolutely. I think they could win 110 games this year, and it would not surprise me. But to predict that they're going to win 100-plus games 3 years in a row, that's just a lot to ask for. The Dodgers have done it right now. They're going for 4 in a row. I certainly think the Braves can, but I'm going to say 98. And I'm going to say it for this reason. And maybe it doesn't play out like this, and maybe Brian Snitker, the Braves, don't play it like this. But if you are postseason focused, I think there has to be less focus on the regular season. And maybe that's not the right mindset. And maybe I'm wrong on that. But if it means skipping Spencer Strider, if it means skipping Chris Sale, if it means giving a regular a day off when maybe they're not feeling their best, and that means a loss or two here or there, but those guys are fresh and ready for the postseason, then I'm fine with 98 wins instead of 104, 105. But there's no doubt if this team stays healthy all year and they play every day like they typically do, I think they'll blow past 100. But I'm going to say 98, and that's probably going to shock a lot of people. But it's never a true or outcome that somebody's going to win 100 games. You typically don't ever see projection systems project teams to win over 100 games. They did with this Braves team, which tells you just how good it is on paper. But I'm going to say a little bit less. I'm going to say 98. Do the Braves win the NL East? I think they do. And I think they win the division by at least 5 games. I certainly think that will be the case. Go back to the records for a second because I see some people in the comment section shouting out some numbers. Ecuadorman says 103 wins. Jeffrey Humphrey says 108. Argenis says 104 will be their 104 and 58 will be their record this year. So most of you have the Braves over 100. Again, would not surprise me at all. And I think whatever it is, whether it's 98, 105, 104, 103, I think the Braves do win the division. And like I said, I think they win it with a pretty comfortable margin over the Phillies. How many home runs and stolen bases does Ronald Acuña Jr. get this year? It's a question a lot of people are asking. I'm going to say 45-75. Again, I'm being a little bit more cautious on this one, just like I was with the Braves win total. I say cautious, 45-75 would be an incredible season. Again, another one like we've never seen. That would be a slight increase from what he did last year. I want to project or predict the 50-80 season because I think he can do it, but it seems so ridiculous to predict that. But before last year, 40-70 seemed like something that was pretty ridiculous, and he did it. Again, I put no limitations on Ronald, but 50-80 just, it seems like that is something that is almost unattainable. But if anybody can do it, Ronald can. I'm going to say he makes a slight increase, hopefully towards that one day. I'm going to say he goes 45-75. How many strikeouts does Spencer Strider get? This to me is all about the innings, and it goes back to what I was talking about earlier with the wins. If we see the Braves kind of dial things back in the regular season a little bit, and they skip guys in the rotation, they give guys more rest, and Strider sits more around 180 innings again, then I don't think he's going to get to 300 strikeouts. If he gets to 200 innings, I think he's going to get 300 strikeouts. Last year, he pitched 186 and 2/3 innings. He had 281 strikeouts, a K per 9 of 13.55. Look, Spencer Strider is really, really good. The best strikeout pitcher in the game right now. But again, to put up a K per 9 close to 14 again and to predict that, it's almost a wild prediction to make. But he is that good. I think he's certainly capable. It's all going to be about the workload that he gets. Can he get to 190 innings? Can he get to 200 innings? If he can, then I think he has a really good shot at reaching 300. But as I've already mentioned, I think the Braves will play it cautiously with their starters this year to make sure that they are healthy and ready for the postseason. So I don't see him getting to 300. I think he'll be around the 180 inning mark again. And I'll say he'll get 275 strikeouts this year. How many Braves players hit 30 home runs? 3 for sure. Acuña, Riley, and Olsen, I think, get 30 home runs pretty easily. I think all 3 of those potentially hit 40 plus. I think Acuña and Olsen definitely do. Riley is the question mark, and I think Riley's in for a big season. So I'm going to say he gets to 40 as well. I think Ozuna gets to 30 as long as he stays healthy all year. So that's 4 Braves players that I think get to 30 home runs. I don't think that Ozzy gets back there this year. I think he'll be more in that 26, 28 range where he's been most of his career. So I'd say 4 Braves players get 30 home runs. But I think all of those guys I just mentioned are going to be 25 plus. And I think there's a chance Michael Harris is 25 plus. I think there's a chance Sean Murphy is in the 25 plus group as well. So I think the Braves are going to hit a ton of home runs this year. And then the final one for me before I get into some of the listener predictions, How many innings do AJ Smith-Shawver and Hurston Waldrop throw in the big leagues this year? I think both of those guys make at least 5 starts this year. So that's 20 to 25 innings right there. I think that's the baseline for both of those guys. I think they each make at least 5 starts. I also think there's a chance for one or both of them to get a shot in the bullpen towards the end of the year, gearing up for the playoffs. So that's maybe another 5 to 10 innings. But I think they get even more than that, unless they want to keep their rookie status or try to guarantee another year of service time and play that service time manipulation game. I think those kids are going to pitch this year. I'm going to say 70 innings for AJ Smith-Shawver because I think he's going to get the first crack at it. If something happens in the rotation, they want to move Lopez back to the bullpen. I think Elder will be the first man up, but I think AJ Smith-Shawver will be next after that. And so I think he gets a lot of innings earlier in the year. I'm going to say 40 innings for Hurston Waldrop this year. Kind of one of my bold predictions for him is that the second half of the year, we see him enter into the rotation and stick for the year to come. That's one of my bold predictions for this year. So I'm going to say 70 for AJ Smith-Shawver just because I think he's going to get called up sooner. And I'm going to say 40 for Hurston Waldrop. I think we get a good look at both of those guys this year. We almost have to because you need to know going into 2025, can you count on either of those guys in the rotation going forward? I feel like the Braves need to answer that question this year to know what they have going into the offseason. So those are some of my predictions for the Braves this upcoming year. Next, I'm going to answer some of your predictions that you have asked me to predict here next. You shouldn't have to worry when you buy tickets to your next big event. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Gametime is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. See the view from your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. I don't buy tickets anymore unless I know what the view from my seat is. I also cannot stand it when they don't give you the all-in price up front. In Gametime, they do that. When you see the price of the ticket, you know that's exactly what you're going to be paying. So go to Gametime, download the Gametime app today, create an account. You're getting ready for opening day. You're getting ready to go to some Braves games this year. So use our code LOCKEDON. You're going to get $20 off your first purchase. You also get the Gametime guarantee. That means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section in a row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. So again, go out right now, download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON. That's LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? You're constantly hearing all the shouting in the background. You're having to turn down the volume. Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Tomorrow is opening day. As I said earlier, I was planning to go on vacation after Thursday's game, but that's got pushed back to Friday. Still going on vacation, but may do a special opening day live mailbag episode. If we get this video to 200 likes, I will do an opening day live video for mailbag. Anybody who's in there, come in, just ask questions and I'll answer them there. So make sure that you hit the like button on this video if you want to see that on opening day. Next week, we'll obviously have a recap of the series over the weekend and get into our original or traditional rather in-season programming that we have here on Locked On Braves. Let's jump into some of the listener predictions. Some of the ones I answered some of the ones I answered in the first segment were some of the ones that were asked. So I apologize if I don't mention your name here, but thank you for submitting those in. Alex Burke says, Chris Sale, number of innings pitched. Been thinking about this for a while, and the number that really sticks in my mind is 150. That's kind of the number I've been saying a lot lately. I think if he stays healthy all year, I think he makes 28 starts. I think he averages, just a little over 5 innings a start. and I think he reaches around 150 innings. I feel like that's a pretty safe workload for him. He threw just over 100 innings last year for Boston. I think if you can get him up to 150 this year, that feels like, I mean, he's a veteran. He's obviously had a high workload before, but hasn't thrown that much in a long time. But I feel like that would be a good number for him and a number that would help keep him fresh for the postseason. So I'm going to say 150 innings are the number of innings that Chris Sale pitches this year. Next one from Jeremy says, who hits the chop house the most this season? Matt Olson is the easy answer there. I think maybe the more intriguing question, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Can Michael Harris and Jared Kelenic combine to match Matt Olson for chop house landings this year? That might be the more intriguing question there. Let me know in the comments section. Good friend Sam Peebles says, how many times will Sean Murphy be hit by a pitch this year? He was hit 18 times last year, 13 times the year before. So he will take some on the elbow there. I'll say 14. I'll kind of split the difference of the last 2 years, and I'll say he gets hit 14 times this year. Torrid Morning says, will the Braves have a better or worse run differential than last season? So this is a very interesting one here. The Braves had plus 231 run differential last year. The Dodgers were next best at 207. Dodgers were plus 334 in 2022. The Yankees were plus 240. So it's not like the number that the Braves put up last year is historic. I mean, 2 teams the year before that had better run differentials. So I think the Braves can do even better. I mean, I think the pitching staff is going to be much better this year. I mean, you think about the fact the Braves threw a bunch of Yonny Chirinos, Mike Soroka, Dylan Dodd, Jared Schuster last year. Obviously, injuries can happen, and that can change very quickly. But I think the pitching staff is going to be a lot better this season. And I think the offense could be just as good as it was last year. Maybe not quite historic good, but I still think it's going to be the best in baseball. So I'm going to say they have a better plus run differential this year. I'm going to say plus 280. I think is going to be the number. Yaman says, how many gold gloves will the Braves have this year? Harris, Acuña, Riley, Murphy, Max. I'll say 3. I was going to say 2. Be honest, I forgot about the pitcher one, but I'm going to say Max because I think he's going to be healthier this year and be out there. And if he's out there, he's going to win a gold glove. So I'm going to say 3. I'm going to say Max Fried, Sean Murphy, and I'm going to say Michael Harris gets it this year. So I'm going to say 3 gold gloves for the Braves. Large Lar, how many sacrifice bunts the Braves will have as a team this year? If I remember a few years ago, it went down to the last few games and they had 0. So yes, you're right. 2 years ago, I think it was the last week of the season, and the Braves laid down a sac bunt. Remember everybody laughing about it in the dugout. Last year, they had 2 of them. I'm going to say they're making an increase. The small ball game is coming back. We're going from 1 to 2 to 3 in 2024. 3 sacrifice bunts in 2024. Pepe11 says, most valuable in-season addition, internal and external. Internal for me is going to be Waldrop. And whether that is him coming into the rotation, mid-season, late in the season, or being part of the bullpen for a postseason run, I think Waldrop is going to be the most valuable internal addition to the team. External, that's really hard to predict right now because where do you add somebody at the moment? Unless Arcia just falls flat on his face and the Braves need to go out and get an impact shortstop like a Willy Adames, who's probably going to go to the Dodgers. But I just don't know where you go to make an upgrade. I mean, it would take significant injuries, I think, for the Braves to go out and make a big splash externally. They're going to make some moves at the deadline to shore up some things, but I'm going to say it's going to be a bench bat. Maybe a big left-handed bat like Jock Peterson. Obviously, a name that Braves fans would love to see come back, but something like that, I think the Braves could do. Maybe some sort of veteran bench bat to come off the bench, I think could be the big addition. But again, it's just hard to predict anything external with what they already have on the team. Impat 0915. There's always a surprise team that exceeds expectations every year, and they usually sneak into the playoffs more often than not. What team or teams do you think will surprise people this year and possibly get into the postseason? If I had to look for a sneaky team this year, I think it's going to have to be from one of the central divisions. I don't see much sneakiness happening in any of the other divisions because in the AL East, I mean, all of those teams are pretty good. The only thing that would surprise people if the Red Sox won that division. In the West, the Astros and the Rangers are very good. The only thing sneaky there would be if maybe the Angels snuck up and grabbed a spot, or the Mariners, but most people already expect the Mariners to be pretty good. And the NL East, most people expect the Braves and the Phillies to be right there. Maybe it'd be sneaky if the Mets kind of got on a run and made it to the postseason, similar to what the Marlins did last year. And then in the NL West, the Dodgers are going to be there, and you feel like the Padres and Diamondbacks can contend. I guess a sneaky pick for them would be the Giants. If they perhaps put things together, they just spend a lot of money. So I don't know how sneaky you could say that would be. For me, there's two teams that come to mind. The first one is the Tigers. I just think that pitching staff, if it all comes together, and they seem to be doing some really good things over there with their pitching staff, if they can hit enough, and the young hitters, Riley Green, Torkelson, and those guys, if they can take a step forward, Colt Keith, if they all can, become legitimate big league hitters, that division's very winnable, and that pitching staff is as good as I think it's going to be. I think the Tigers might shock some people. In the NL Central, I think the same thing could be said for the Pirates. I think the Pirates are starting to do some good things with their pitching as well. And they have some offensive talent there. They have O'Neal Cruz, if he can stay healthy, Brian Reynolds, Andrew McCutchen back, obviously, and they have some good players there coming up. So I think the Pirates in the National League, the Tigers in the American League are two teams that I think could sneak up on some people this year in very winnable divisions. Another one from Impact. I'd love to hear your stat lines and predictions on each member of the core starting rotation. I know the fifth spot could be interchangeable, but I'd like to see your predictions on Strider, Fried, Sale, and Morton. Love the show and go Braves. Thank you, Impact, who's in here with me today live. For Strider, I'd say 18 wins, 180 innings, 175 strikeouts, a 3.35 ERA, and an NL Cy Young. For Max Fried, I'd say 16 wins, 170 innings, 165 strikeouts, and a 3.55 ERA. For Chris Sale, 14 wins, 150 innings, 170 strikeouts, and a 3.81 ERA. I don't know why I threw the one in there, but I thought it was cool. Morton, 12 wins, 160 innings, 172 strikeouts, and a 4.2 ERA. That's what I think these guys can do. Now, ERAs can fluctuate very quickly. You know that, but if I had to predict out what I think these guys can do this year, those are the numbers that I would put on them. For Ronaldo Lopez, and last one here from Ronaldo Lopez, fifth starter enthusiast, over under 20 wins for Ronaldo Lopez. I'm going to take the under, but could we see the Braves get another 20-game winner this year? They've done it the past 2 years. I think Strider obviously has a good chance to get back to that. Fried as well. I mean, with the Braves offense, you got a chance to pick up some wins, even maybe when you don't pitch your best. But for Ronaldo Lopez, I know Impact didn't ask for predictions on him. I think he makes 15 starts this year. And I think it's a 4.3, 4.4 ERA type. I mean, it's fifth starter type numbers. I think he'll be fine. I think we're going to have some games where he goes out there 5, 6 solid, really good innings. I think there's going to be some games where he doesn't make it to the fifth inning. And I think that's going to be the type of year that it is for Ronaldo Lopez. But for the other guys, I'm expecting some pretty big things. All right, next, we are going to get into our postseason predictions. Are the Atlanta Braves going to win it all in 2024? I'll tell you here next. March Madness is here, which means the biggest moments in college basketball are here as well. Be a part of the action on PrizePicks for both men's and women's college basketball. PrizePicks even offers injury insurance. So even if one of your players gets injured in the first half and they don't return for the second half, that won't count against your entry and your entry stays alive. PrizePicks offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts, and PrizePicks is really simple to play. I can make my picks and submit them in under 60 seconds. And opening day is tomorrow, so there'll be plenty of opportunities. Looking on PrizePicks right now, they already have some out. They have total bases on Ohtani at 1.5. Same for Ellie De La Cruz, Freddie Freeman. 1/2 hitter strikeouts. You think he's not going to go strike out? They got pitcher strikeouts as well. You want to go check out Cole Reagans for the Royals. They have his more or less set at 6 of strikeouts for tomorrow. So all of that on PrizePicks. You can set all that up. It's really simple, easy to play. Just pick 2 to 6 players or groups of players. Decide if they'll go more or less on certain stats like strikeouts, hits, and more over on PrizePicks. And we got a special for you on opening day. Download the app, use code LOCKEDONMLB, all lowercase, for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, download the app today. Use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy with PrizePicks. All right, let's get into what everybody's wanting to know. Who's going to win the World Series in 2024? Like, when you make these predictions on who's going to win the division, who's going to get to the World Series, at this point of the year, it's all just going based on who you think is the best team on paper. That's all we have to go on right now. It's a 162-game grind. A team on day one is not going to be the same on day 170 or how many ever days the season is. It's not going to be the same. Things are going to change. Teams are going to make moves at the deadline. Players are going to get injured. Rookies are going to step up. It's going to be very different throughout the course of the year. But all we can do right now is look at who has the best team on paper and who has the deepest team on paper. In my mind, that's the Atlanta Braves. But before we get there, I want to pick each division. I have the Braves in the East. I got the Cubs in the NL Central. I don't really trust them, but I don't trust anybody else. I don't trust the Cardinals. That's why I kind of picked the Pirates as a sneaky pick there. The Brewers, I don't know what they're doing. They could be trading off everybody at the deadline. And the NL West, I got the Dodgers, another obvious pick. Wild card 1, I have the Phillies. And then the Padres, wild card 2. It's kind of, to me, with the Padres, it's that year after the year. You know, everybody was talking about the Padres last year. You know, new management in there, even though I don't like Mike Schilt. I think he'll do a good job with that team. They still have some really good players. So I think the Padres get to the postseason. And I got the Diamondbacks in that third wild card spot. In the American League, I got the Orioles in the East, the Twins in the Central. I really want to pick the Tigers or somebody else there. Again, similar to the NL Central. I don't really trust any of them, but I'll go with the Twins. In the AL West, I'm going to go with the Astros. I know the Rangers just won the World Series, but it's kind of similar to me with the Braves. It's until somebody knocks them off, I'm going to continue to pick them. So I'm going to roll with the Astros. I do have the Rangers for the wild card 1 spot, then the Yankees and the Mariners. So those are my postseason teams, and it's a lot of postseason teams. In the NLCS, I got the Braves over the Dodgers. I really hope we get that matchup this year. Obviously, really hope that the Braves take them out. And then in the ALCS, I have the Orioles over the Rangers. And then the World Series, I have the Braves over the Orioles. Again, right now, all you can really do is look on paper who is the most complete team, who has the most depth. In my mind, that's the Braves in the National League, although I think the Dodgers are very close. I think the Phillies are very close as well. But I would take the Braves' depth top to bottom over both of those teams. And the American League, I think it's the Orioles. Look, they got the top prospect in all of baseball sitting back down, just waiting to be called up in Jackson Holiday. They have a ton of depth over there right now. I think they'll make some moves at the deadline. They just got new ownership. I think the Orioles are going to be a very good team in the American League, where I'll be honest, I look at the American League, I don't trust any of those teams. Maybe the Rangers and the Astros in that mix, but there's just, to me, I don't look at the American League and I don't see the Braves, Phillies, and Dodgers on that side of thing. I think those 3 teams in the National League are ahead of anybody in the American League right now. So those are my postseason World Series predictions. Award predictions. AL MVP, I don't know. Maybe this is more my heart than my brain. I'm going to say Mike Trout. I think we get one more healthy year of Mike Trout, and I think he shows all of us why he is still one of the best players in baseball when healthy. National League MVP, I'm going with Ronald Acuña Jr. I mean, I've already said I think he's going to have a 45-75 season. If he does that, he's going to win MVP again. AL Cy Young, I'm going with Luis Castillo. I think he pitches well, leads the Mariners to the postseason. NL Cy Young, I'm also going homer here with Strider. AL Rookie of the Year, Wyatt Langford. NL Rookie of the Year, Yamamoto. You know, I don't like doing that when players come over that have already been pitching professionally, but I think Yamamoto puts it together and does have the best year. So that's all the predictions. Thanks for sending those in. Hopefully you enjoy those. Feel free to come back at the end of the year to let me know how many I got wrong, but hopefully you enjoyed that episode. Some of the news from the day, great article from Ronald Acuña Jr. himself over on the Players Tribune. There's a video at the end of that as well. Make sure you watch that as it got some different stuff in it. Go give that a read. I cried. I laughed. absolutely loved that article and getting more insight on one of my favorite players and probably your favorite players too. So make sure you give that a read. It's free to read over on the Players Tribune. He also tweeted it out on his Twitter account. Already mentioned the Braves and Phillies pushed back to Friday. Jackson Stevens was outrighted for the addition of Jesse Chavez, and he elected free agency. I think he'll be back one day until opening day. And at least for most teams, not for the Braves. We still have 2 days, but our opening day countdown comes to one day, and there's only one person I want to talk about, and that is one of my favorite Braves players of all time, and Rafael Furcal. So we are Rafael Furcal days away from the opening day for most teams, except for the Atlanta Braves. We'll have to wait a little bit longer. But thank you so much for joining today's podcast. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or on the free Fire TV's channel app. Again, you want to see another podcast from me tomorrow? Let's get this video to 200 likes. If you do, we'll have a live podcast for opening day on Thursday. But that will do it for this episode. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you follow me on social media at Shortstop Ball and the podcast at LockedOn_Braves. Make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast, and we will talk to you next time.